Stop scrolling for a second because what I'm about to tell you is something 99% of men will never hear. And if you ignore it, you will stay invisible while others pass you by. You think being handsome is about looks, about muscles, about style. You're wrong. Being truly irresistible, being a man who commands attention without trying, has nothing to do with what you see in the mirror. It's deeper, it's invisible. And today I'm going to show you exactly how the world secretly notices a man, the signs, the energy, the habits that make people stop and pay attention long before they ever say a word. Most men spend their lives chasing approval, validation, or the wrong version of confidence. They flex, they show off, they perform, but it doesn't work. Why? Because true handsomeness comes from presence, from awareness, from energy you cannot fake. It comes from the little things most men overlook, the subtle patterns in how you carry yourself, how you think, how you act. And if you understand this, if you truly notice these signs, your life will change. People will listen to you differently. They will react to you differently. Opportunities will start finding you instead of the other way around. By the end of this video, you won't just see yourself differently. You become the kind of man people can't ignore, the one who moves through the world with confidence, magnetism, and presence that feels effortless. I promise you, these are truths almost nobody teaches, and when you understand them, everything shifts. Your energy, your relationships, your energy, your relationships, your influence, and how the world responds to you. So stay with me until the very end, because once you hear this, you'll never look at yourself or life the same way again. Let's talk about confidence, not the kind of confidence that comes from showing off, flexing, or trying to make everyone notice you, but the deep, unshakable kind that radiates quietly, naturally, and irresistibly. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think it's loud, aggressive, or flashy. They think confidence is about who has the biggest voice in the room or who can command attention with a show of force. That's not confidence. That's performance. Real confidence doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need approval. It's internal, it's steady. And this is the first sign of true handsomeness. Think about the people you've noticed in your life, the ones who left a mark on you without even trying. Chances are they didn't demand attention. They earned it simply by being present. That presence, that calm certainty is magnetic. It draws people in because it tells the world, I know who I am and I don't need anyone else to define me. That's what makes someone truly handsome. When you walk into a room with that kind of energy, you don't just enter, you arrive. And there's a subtle power in that arrival, a power most men never understand because they're too busy trying to prove themselves. Confidence like this is not about perfection. It's not about having all the answers or never feeling fear. It's about embracing who you are, including your flaws, and moving forward anyway. It's about recognizing that your value doesn't come from external validation, but from an unshakable understanding of your own worth. And here's the truth. People can sense it. Humans are wired to pick up on energy. If you are at peace with yourself, if you carry an internal compass that isn't swayed by judgment or comparison, others feel it. They notice it, even if they can't put it into words. That's the invisible pull of true handsomeness. Most men spend their lives chasing confidence the wrong way. They chase achievements, possessions, compliments, and status, thinking these will make them appear confident. But external things can only give a temporary boost. The moment circumstances change or someone challenges you, that kind of confidence crumbles. Real confidence, the kind that makes you effortlessly handsome, comes from mastery over yourself, over your mind, and over your choices. It comes from a lifetime of knowing your strengths and weaknesses, accepting both, and acting decisively despite uncertainty. To cultivate this, you have to start by observing yourself. Notice your reactions to situations. Notice how easily you're swayed by other people's opinions. Notice when you act out of fear or desire for approval. Awareness is the first step to mastering your confidence. When you understand your triggers, your insecurities, and your patterns, you begin to reclaim control over your presence. You begin to radiate a quiet authority that isn't aggressive. It's natural. People feel it and they respect it. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't fade with age, circumstance, or criticism. It only grows stronger because it's grounded in truth, not performance, cartivance. Here's another thing most people overlook. Confidence is also about patience. It's about understanding timing, about knowing when to speak and when to listen. Loud, showy men may dominate conversations, but the truly confident man knows the weight of silence. He understands that saying less can communicate more. He understands that presence is more about energy than words. This patience, this subtle command of your own space and rhythm is irresistibly attractive. It signals that you are unshakable, unbothered by trivialities, and grounded in a life bigger than immediate validation. People are drawn to that because it offers a sense of safety and strength. Now, notice this. Confidence without arrogance is different from confidence with ego. Arrogance is fragile, defensive, and loud because it needs to protect itself. Confidence without arrogance is steady, quiet, and generous because it doesn't need protection. It allows others to shine without feeling diminished. It acknowledges mistakes without embarrassment. It listens without judgment, and that is what makes it profoundly attractive. When you embody this kind of confidence, people are drawn to you not because you demand it, but because they feel they can trust you, learn from you, and be inspired by you. That is the energy of handsomeness most men will never understand. The most shocking part, you already have the capacity for this. Confidence isn't something you buy, it's not a skill you fake, and it's not a mask you wear. It's a commitment to yourself. It's a daily practice of standing tall, even when you feel small, of speaking your truth, even when your voice shakes, of acting decisively, even when fear whispers in your ear. Each moment you choose to act from that space, your presence grows stronger. People notice it. Energy shifts around you. Doors open that you didn't even see before. Opportunities present themselves without effort. That is the invisible power of true confidence. That is the first sign of handsomeness. Most importantly, this confidence changes your internal narrative. It rewires the way you see yourself. Instead of asking, do they like me or am I enough? You begin to live from a place of certainty. I know my value. I know my purpose. I am enough, and I will act accordingly. That shift is profound because it doesn't just change how the world sees you, it changes how you see the world. Suddenly, challenges feel like opportunities, criticism feels like feedback, and life itself feels like a playground for your presence. You are no longer a participant waiting for permission. You are a force that naturally commands attention, admiration, and respect. So, what does this all mean for you? It means that if you want to be truly handsome, you don't need a perfect body, a designer wardrobe, or approval from anyone. You need self-mastery, quiet confidence, patience, and awareness. You need to understand that handsomeness starts from within and radiates outward, visible, not just in appearance, but in energy, demeanor, and presence. You need to stop performing for the world and start being for yourself. That is what makes people stop, look, and remember you long after you leave the room. And here's the final truth I want you to take with you. Confidence without arrogance is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through awareness, reflection, and deliberate action. Every choice you make, every interaction you have, every thought you hold is an opportunity to strengthen it. And once you do, you will notice a shift, not just in how the world treats you, but in how you experience life itself. You will walk taller, speak clearer, and carry yourself in a way that is undeniable. That is handsomeness. That is power. That is the first and most critical step in becoming the man the world cannot ignore. Remember this? People will always notice energy before looks, presence before appearance, and confidence before charm. Cultivate it, protect it, live it, because the moment you do, the world will start seeing you exactly as you are meant to be, irresistibly, undeniably, and quietly handsome. Now that we've spoken about confidence, let's move to something equally critical: awareness and attention to detail. This is the skill that separates men who are noticed from men who are forgotten. True handsomeness isn't just about how you look or how you carry yourself. It's about how much of the world you see, how deeply you understand, and how finely you notice the subtleties that others miss. And I promise you, this is not something most people ever consider. The truth is, most men go through life with a fog over their eyes. They see, yes, but they don't notice. They hear, yes, but they don't listen. They interact, yes, but they don't connect. And because they are not truly present, they fail to register the opportunities, the signals, and the nuances that life constantly offers. Handsomeness in its purest form thrives in the mind that notices. It thrives in the person who can read the room, catch the shifts in energy, and observe the hidden patterns in human behavior. Think about it this way: when you walk into a room, what do you notice first? Most men notice what is easy to see: the flashy clothes, the big smiles, the loud voices. But the truly handsome man notices the small things: the way someone hesitates before speaking, the subtle shift in tone when a person is uncomfortable, the micro expressions that betray what someone is really thinking. These small observations are invisible to most, but they are everything. They tell you more about the world than 100 obvious signals ever could. And when you notice them, you gain something almost magical: insight, influence, and power. Being aware is not the same as being judgmental. Awareness is about seeing clearly without coloring reality with fear or desire. It's about observing, understanding, and interpreting life accurately. The more finely tuned your perception, the more effectively you can respond to any situation. You become unpredictable in the best way because others don't expect your level of attention. You see what they overlook, and that gives you an edge, not in a manipulative sense, but in a present sense. People are drawn to men who notice because noticing means caring, understanding, and connecting. Here's something shocking most men never realize: women, colleagues, friends, they notice when you notice them. It's subtle, but it's powerful. When you pay attention to the details, when you remember small things about a person, when you acknowledge their feelings, when you respond to what they actually say rather than what you think they mean, you become unforgettable. They don't just see you physically, they feel your presence psychologically, emotionally, energetically. That is magnetic. That is the kind of handsomeness most men cannot buy with wealth, status, or charm. It comes from something much deeper: presence. Attention to detail also translates into life itself. The handsome man notices patterns, consequences, and opportunities that others miss. He sees the way situations unfold before they fully develop. He reads between the lines in conversations, he interprets the unspoken, and he anticipates outcomes. This awareness allows him to act decisively, to step into opportunities that others dismiss or ignore, and to navigate life with far more precision than the average man. It's like having a sixth sense, a radar that tells you where to focus your energy and when to move. And this radar is built, not born. It is developed through practice, observation, and a relentless commitment to noticing what others miss. Most people underestimate the power of this skill because it's invisible. There's no immediate reward for noticing a small detail about someone's mood or a subtle shift in conversation, but these small observations compound. Over time, they build your reputation as someone reliable, insightful, and captivating. People trust those who notice. They gravitate toward those who understand them without having to explain everything. And in that subtle, almost imperceptible way, you become someone whose presence changes the energy of a room, whose absence is felt, even before they leave. Let's talk about the psychological side for a moment. The human brain is wired to reward attention. When you notice someone, when you give them undivided awareness, they experience something profound. They feel valued. And when people feel valued, they align their energy with yours. This is not manipulation, this is natural law. Awareness creates resonance, awareness creates connection, and connection is the foundation of influence, admiration, and attraction. Handsomeness, in its truest form, is less about superficial traits and more about the invisible gravity you carry because you are fully aware, fully present, fully alive in every interaction. But here is the challenge most men face. Distraction is everywhere. Social media, notifications, superficial conversations, endless obligations. Life constantly pulls attention outward. And when your attention is scattered, you miss everything that makes a man truly handsome. You walk through life in a blur, seeing the surface, hearing the noise, but never penetrating the reality beneath. To counter this, you must train yourself to observe with intent, listen with purpose, and respond with clarity. Practice noticing the small things in every encounter. Practice reading between the lines. Practice slowing down long enough to catch the subtleties others overlook. Over time, this skill compounds into an aura of depth, understanding, and silent power. Another crucial point is that noticing is not passive. It requires action. Awareness becomes meaningless if it does not inform how you behave. Noticing a problem but failing to respond is wasted energy. Noticing an opportunity but ignoring it is wasted insight. True handsomeness emerges when noticing and action meet. You see the details, you understand them, and you act decisively in ways that enhance your life, influence your surroundings, and leave a lasting impression. That combination, perception plus action, is unstoppable. The final layer of this is self-awareness. To notice others effectively, you must first notice yourself. Observe your own thoughts, your biases, your patterns, and your blind spots. The more you understand yourself, the more finely tuned your perception of the world becomes. When you operate from clarity, your awareness becomes a tool for mastery, for influence, and for connection. And when you use it intentionally, you cultivate a presence that is magnetic, undeniable, and unforgettable. So here's the takeaway: the ability to notice, to truly observe and understand the world and people around you is not a small skill. It is one of the most potent forms of handsomeness. It allows you to navigate life with insight, connect with people deeply, and project an energy that commands attention without demanding it. If you cultivate this skill, you will see a transformation not just in how the world sees you, but in how life unfolds before you. Opportunities will appear, relationships will deepen, and your influence will grow naturally. Remember this: being handsome is not just about what people see, it's about what they feel when they are with you. And nothing makes people feel more captivated than the presence of a man who notices, who listens, who understands, and who responds with clarity. That is the invisible power that creates admiration, respect, and attraction. That is the second sign of true handsomeness. And here's the final thought I want you to leave with. What you choose to notice today will shape how the world experiences you tomorrow. Stop gliding through life blindly. Stop assuming what people think, feel, or want. Pay attention, observe, listen, understand, because the moment you do, your presence changes, your energy changes, your life changes. You become a man who is not just seen, but felt. You become unforgettable. Now that we've explored confidence and awareness, let's talk about something most people underestimate: discipline in silence. This is one of those qualities that, when fully understood, can change your life in ways you never imagined. Most men think discipline is about action, about being busy, about constantly proving themselves. They believe that success, respect, and admiration come from being loud, being seen, and being recognized. They are wrong. Real power, real handsomeness comes from quiet mastery, from doing the work even when no one is watching, from building yourself in silence, from controlling your mind before trying to control the world. Discipline in silence is not just about habits or routines. It is a mindset, a philosophy, a way of existing in the world that says, I do not need validation to act. I do not need applause to grow. I do not need recognition to improve. Most people are addicted to approval. They want likes, praise, attention, and acknowledgement. And because of this, their growth is fragmented, inconsistent, and fragile. The truly handsome man, the man who leaves a lasting impression without trying, understands that the work is internal first. The results, the recognition, the admiration, they follow naturally, like shadows to light. Think about it. If you train yourself to improve silently, to build your character without announcing it, you cultivate a type of strength that others can feel but cannot immediately quantify. It is subtle, almost invisible, but undeniable. People notice the difference between a man who is constantly performing and a man who is quietly evolving. The first seeks validation. The second creates it inherently through his energy, presence, and mastery. That difference is what separates ordinary men from men who are unforgettable. Discipline in silence also builds resilience. When you are committed to improving yourself privately, you learn to face challenges without panic, to endure discomfort without complaint, and to act with clarity when others falter. You learn to trust yourself in ways that external approval can never teach. That trust radiates outward. It is visible to anyone who interacts with you. People may not see the hours you spend refining your skills, the sacrifices you make, or the battles you fight internally, but they feel the impact in every interaction. They feel the energy of a man who is in control of himself, no matter what the world throws at him. Another profound element of this kind of discipline is patience. Most men want instant results. They want the recognition, the reward, the affirmation immediately. But mastery, influence, and handsomeness require time. They require building invisible muscles of self control, focus, and endurance that cannot be rushed. Disciple. In silence is the slow burn that eventually becomes unstoppable. It is the quiet accumulation of victories over your fears, your doubts, and your weaknesses. And when it finally manifests externally, the impact is shocking because it is effortless, natural, and undeniable. Here's a truth most men will never admit. The world underestimates silent discipline because it is invisible. People are drawn to flash, noise, and performance, and yet these are temporary. They fade. Discipline in silence lasts. It grows stronger with every day, every action, every choice made without the need for recognition. It creates a gravity that pulls people toward you without you having to chase anyone. That is handsomeness in its purest form, a force that cannot be faked, bought, or borrowed. It must be built from within. Discipline in silence also strengthens your decision making. When your foundation is built in quiet mastery, you are not swayed by emotion, by pressure, or by the opinions of others. You act based on clarity, not impulse. You respond to life with precision, not reaction. That kind of control is magnetic. People feel it, even if they don't understand it. They respect it, even if they cannot explain why. It creates trust, admiration, and influence in ways that words and appearances alone never can. And here is the subtle, yet most important layer. Discipline in silence is not rigid or cold. It is not about being emotionless or disconnected. On the contrary, it allows you to experience life fully because your energy is controlled, your mind is clear, and your presence is strong. You can express emotion, joy, creativity, and passion without losing yourself to chaos or distraction. This balance between control and vitality is what makes a man truly captivating. People do not just see your strength, they feel your life, your clarity, your energy. They are drawn to it instincts. Interestingly, often without knowing why. Most men overlook this because they equate visibility with validation. They post, they announce, they perform, thinking that being seen equals being respected. But real handsomeness, the kind that lasts, does not seek attention. It commands it without asking. Discipline in silence is the invisible force behind this phenomenon. The more you cultivate it, the more naturally you attract opportunities, influence, and admiration. The world notices mastery, even when it cannot articulate it. That is power. That is magnetic. That is handsomeness. Now, let's bring this closer to everyday life. Think about your habits. Think about your daily choices. Are you cultivating your skills, your mind, your health, your relationships quietly, consistently, relentlessly? Or are you seeking constant affirmation for every small action? The difference is profound. One path leads to dependency, fragility, and exhaustion. The other leads to autonomy, resilience, and unstoppable presence. The man who chooses silent discipline creates a life that others only dream of, not because he flaunts it, but because he builds it from the inside out. Discipline in silence also teaches humility. When you work without the need for applause, you learn to value the process over the outcome. You understand that every step, every choice, every sacrifice contributes to a larger vision. You learn that recognition is fleeting, but mastery endures. And this humility combined with internal strength creates a presence that is both commanding and approachable. People feel safe and inspired around such a man, which amplifies his natural attractiveness and influence. Finally, the most important lesson is this: your life is a reflection of the work you do when no one is watching. Your character, your energy, your influence, and your handsomeness are all forged in the moments spent building yourself quietly, consistently, and intentionally. When you embrace discipline in silence, you step into a reality where admiration, respect, and opportunity follow you naturally. You no longer chase, they gravitate towards you. Your presence becomes undeniable. Your life becomes extraordinary. So here's the takeaway: handsomeness is not just about confidence or awareness. It is about mastery over yourself, cultivated silently, invisibly, relentlessly. The man who understands this becomes magnetic, unforgettable, and unshakable. He walks through life with clarity, purpose, and power that cannot be replicated by looks, status, or charm alone. He is, in essence, a force of nature. And here is the final thought I want you to hold on to. What you build in silence today will define how the world experiences you tomorrow. Choose discipline over distraction, mastery over performance, and quiet strength over shallow approval. The moment you do, your life changes. Your presence becomes undeniable. Your energy becomes magnetic. And you become a man who is not just seen, but felt, not just admired, but respected, not just remembered, but unforgettable. Now that we've explored confidence, awareness, and silent discipline, let's dive into a quality that is often overlooked, yet it is one of the most powerful signs of true handsomeness: the ability to make people feel safe and inspired. This is not about charm, not about words, not about trying to impress anyone. This is deeper. This is energy. This is presence. The truly handsome man doesn't just occupy space, he changes the energy of the space he is in. People feel it. They feel comfort, they feel possibility, and they feel motivation simply because of who he is. They focus on their image, their appearance, or their accomplishments, thinking these are enough to earn respect and attention. But real influence, real magnetic handsomeness comes from the way you make others experience themselves in your presence. When people feel safe, they open up. When people feel inspired, they align with your energy. And when both happen simultaneously, you create a presence that is irresistible. Making people feel safe is not about being weak, submissive, or agreeable. It is about strength. It is about stability. It is about being unshakable in your energy and unbothered by chaos around you, so that others feel secure simply by standing near you. Imagine walking into a room where someone exudes this energy. You feel calm, confident, and grounded just because they are there. That is the invisible power of a man who carries himself with quiet mastery. People are drawn to it naturally without understanding why. It's not charisma, it's presence. The psychological principle behind this is fascinating. Humans are wired to detect energy. We feel vibrations, moods, and intentions before we even process them intellectually. A man who is calm, steady, and focused communicates safety and stability on a subconscious level. Women, colleagues, friends, even strangers can sense it. This creates trust, which is a deeper form of influence than words ever could create. Trust is magnetic. Trust is uncovetable. And it all begins with how you carry yourself internally. But safety alone is not enough. To be truly unforgettable, you must also inspire. Inspiration is different from admiration. Anyone can admire wealth, looks, or skill, But inspiration moves people. It motivates them to rise, to improve, to believe in themselves. The man who inspires does not do it with grand speeches or empty promises. He does it through example, integrity, and consistent action. He is a living demonstration of what is possible, a mirror reflecting potential in others. And when people see this in you, they can't help but gravitate toward you. They feel elevated, empowered, and alive in your presence. This combination, safety and inspiration, is rare. Most people either intimidate or bore. They either create tension, competition, or insecurity, or they are so ordinary that no one notices their presence. The truly handsome man, however, balances these forces masterfully. He is strong without being threatening, influential without being controlling, motivating without being pushy. And this balance is what creates energy that lingers. People remember it long after you leave the room. Here's another key point. This ability is learned, cultivated, and intentional. It does not depend on birth, genetics, or luck. You develop it by first mastering yourself. You must first feel safe in your own mind, in your own life, in your own energy. You must cultivate clarity, focus, and calm so that your presence is a stabilizing force for others. You must also cultivate vision, purpose, and integrity so that your life naturally inspires those around you. The moment you combine these qualities, your influence becomes natural, effortless, and undeniable. Now, most men fail here because they confuse attention with influence. They try to impress, to dominate, to prove themselves, and in doing so, they create the opposite effect. They make people nervous, unsure, or even resentful. But the man who makes people feel safe and inspired understands that influence is earned through energy, not performance. He understands that people are drawn to presence, not to showmanship. And he acts accordingly with intention, patience, and consistency. Another layer to consider is empathy. To truly make people feel safe, you must understand them. You must read their emotions, their unspoken fears, and their subtle cues. Awareness, which we discussed earlier, plays a critical role here. When you notice these things, you respond appropriately. You validate where necessary, you guide where necessary, and you lead by example. This is not manipulation. It is mastery. It is the kind of intelligence that blends intellect, emotion, and presence into a single powerful force that others feel magnetically. And here's something shocking. People respond more to how you make them feel than to what you actually do. Your words, actions, and appearance matter, but the energy you carry matters exponentially more. If you walk into a room with calm strength, clarity of purpose, and the ability to inspire quietly, you become magnetic. People unconsciously seek your presence, value your opinion, and trust your judgment. That is a hallmark of true handsomeness, one that goes far beyond looks, status, or material possessions. This principle also transforms leadership. Whether in business, social circles, or personal relationships, the man who makes others feel safe and inspired creates loyalty, respect, and admiration that cannot be bought. People follow him, support him, and align themselves with his vision, not because he demands it, but because his energy makes them feel that alignment is the natural choice. And that influence, earned silently and consistently, is far more powerful than any superficial charm. Now consider your own life. How do people feel when they are around you? Do they feel tension, doubt, and insecurity? Or do they feel calm, motivated, and empowered? This is not a small question. It is central to how the world perceives you, how your influence grows, and how your presence commands attention. If you are not consciously cultivating this energy, you are leaving an enormous part of your handsomeness. and your potential untapped. Finally, understand that this quality compounds. The more consistently you make people feel safe and inspired, the more naturally it becomes a part of who you are. It shapes your presence, your relationships, and your opportunities. People begin to notice you without effort. Energy gravitates toward you, influence flows to you. Your life becomes a reflection of the quiet power you cultivate daily. And this is the essence of handsomeness in its highest form: effortless, magnetic, and unforgettable. So the takeaway is clear. Being handsome is not just about confidence, awareness, or silent discipline. It is about the energy you create in the world. When you make people feel safe, when you inspire them without words, when your presence elevates everyone around you, you step into a level of influence, admiration, and attraction that cannot be faked. It is real. It is profound. It is undeniable. And here is your final thought to carry with you. The way you make others feel is the measure of your presence in the world. If you cultivate safety, inspiration, and clarity, you will not only be noticed, you will be remembered. You will not only be admired, you will be respected. And in doing so, you will step fully into the kind of handsomeness that leaves a lasting mark on everyone you meet. Now that we've explored confidence, awareness, silent discipline, and the ability to make people feel safe and inspired, let's focus on the final, perhaps most overlooked sign of true handsomeness: seeing opportunities, not excuses. This is a principle so powerful that it separates men who merely exist from men who leave an unforgettable mark on the world. Most people spend their lives complaining about circumstances, blaming external factors, or convincing themselves why they can't achieve something. They see obstacles, limitations, and reasons not to act. But the truly handsome man, the one whose presence commands attention and admiration, sees the world differently. He sees openings, potential, and possibilities where others only see walls. This perspective is not naive optimism. It is not wishful thinking. It is a trained awareness, a cultivated mindset that transforms challenges into growth and setbacks into opportunities. The man who notices opportunity first understands that life is constantly presenting choices, signals, and moments that are invisible to the unobservant. These are subtle. The tilt of a conversation, the pause in someone's energy, the tiny cracks in a situation where action can make the difference. Most men walk past these moments distracted, indifferent, or overwhelmed. The handsome man steps forward, acts decisively, and converts what others overlook into influence, advantage, and success. To develop this ability, you must first cultivate clarity. The human mind is easily distracted by fear, doubt, and noise. People miss opportunities because they are looking for guarantees, perfection, or validation. The man who sees openings first does not wait for certainty. He creates clarity within himself. He understands his values, his goals, and his direction. And from that place of clarity, he can evaluate situations accurately, discerning what is worth pursuing and what is not. This internal compass allows him to act decisively where others hesitate, and hesitation is often the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Opportunity also requires courage. Most men are familiar with fear, the fear of rejection, failure, embarrassment, or the unknown. These fears act as invisible chains, limiting potential. But the truly handsome man does not eliminate fear. He acts in spite of it. He understands that risk is inherent in growth and that hesitation guarantees stagnation. By embracing uncertainty, taking calculated action, and leaning into discomfort, he transforms what seems threatening into a pathway for achievement. This is a profound form of power, an energy that draws people to him because it signals resilience, decisiveness, and vision. Here's the shocking truth most people never hear: opportunity often comes disguised as challenge. What looks like a problem, a barrier, or a limitation to the average man is a signal, a test, and a doorway for the truly observant. The man who sees opportunity first doesn't waste time complaining or rationalizing. He studies the situation, adapts, and responds with precision. He turns adversity into advantage, hesitation into momentum, and limitation into influence. This skill is invisible to most, yet it is immediately felt by those around him. People sense the difference between a man who reacts and a man who creates, and they gravitate toward the latter. Another element to consider is patience. Opportunity is rarely obvious. It requires observation, timing, and judgment. The handsome man understands that action without awareness is reckless, and inaction without vision is weak. He cultivates a balance between observation and execution. He notices the patterns others miss. He identifies the gaps that others ignore, and he acts decisively when the moment is right. This is why so many men who seem ordinary in appearance are overlooked, while those who understand this principle leave lasting impressions. The presence is the product of insight and timing, not chance. Opportunity is also relational. The man who sees openings first understands human behavior, networks, and dynamics. He notices what others need before they ask, what is possible before it is proposed, and what alignment exists before it is recognized. This awareness allows him to step into positions of influence naturally. People respond to those who anticipate rather than react, who create solutions rather than complain about problems, and who generate possibilities rather than excuses. That is handsomeness in AC. Titian intelligence, empathy, and initiative fused into one compelling presence. Now, most men make a critical mistake. They focus on what they lack rather than what they can leverage. They compare themselves to others, envy success, and rationalize inaction. The truly handsome man operates differently. He assesses his resources, skills, knowledge, relationships, and energy, and identifies how to use them effectively. He does not wait for the perfect moment. He creates it. He does not rely on external validation. He trusts his ability to recognize and seize what is available. This proactive mindset is magnetic. People feel it, respect it, and are drawn to it because it signals autonomy, intelligence, and mastery. Let's take a moment to connect this with everything we've discussed so far. Confidence allows you to act without seeking validation. Awareness ensures you notice what others miss. Silent discipline builds your internal strength. The ability to make people feel safe and inspired amplifies your energy. And seeing opportunity, not excuses, transforms all of these qualities into action and influence. Without this final piece, handsomeness remains potential. It is only when you act on insight decisively and intelligently that presence becomes power. Here's another truth that will shock many. The world rewards action far more than intention. People admire planning, talk, and vision, but the man who sees opportunity and takes action is the man who is remembered. Actions create ripples. They inspire trust, admiration, and momentum. People notice those who execute where others hesitate. That is the invisible force behind handsomeness that goes beyond looks, status, or charm. It is the power to convert insight into impact. Opportunity also requires resilience. Not every decision yields immediate results. Not every action is met with success. The truly handsome man understands that failure is not a reason to retreat, it is information. He learns from missteps, adjusts his approach, and moves forward with greater precision. This persistence is magnetic. People are drawn to those who act with purpose despite setbacks because it signals mastery, courage, and determination. It is the energy of someone who refuses to be defeated by circumstance and instead shapes circumstance to his advantage. Finally, the most important layer of this principle is vision. Seeing opportunity is not just about immediate gain. It is about understanding the long term trajectory of your actions, relationships, and influence. It is about connecting dots that others cannot see, anticipating trends before they arrive, and positioning yourself where impact is maximized. The man who does this consistently becomes magnetic, not just in his presence, but in his potential. People sense the trajectory of someone who knows how to navigate life intelligently and with foresight, and they are drawn to him instinctively. So here is the takeaway. True handsomeness is not limited to appearance, charm, or superficial confidence. It is deeply rooted in how you perceive the world and act on it. The ability to see opportunities where others see obstacles is a hallmark of intelligence, presence, and influence. It amplifies everything else: the confidence, the awareness, the discipline, and the energy you project. When you act on insight with clarity, courage, and consistency, you transform potential into presence, influence, and admiration. That is the final defining sign of a man who is truly unforgettable. And here is the final thought I want you to carry with you. Life will constantly present you with obstacles, distractions, and reasons not to act. The truly handsome man sees through them. He sees opportunity, he acts decisively, and he creates results. Stop focusing on limitations. Start noticing openings. Step into them. Act where others hesitate. The moment you do, your presence changes, your influence expands, and your life transforms. You become a man not just seen, not just admired, but irresistibly unforgettable.